Hello and welcome to Decorating Pages podcast. I am your host, Kim Wannop. How's it going? Well, I have another super duper episode for you. You devoured the Superman episode about set decorating with Rosemary Brandenburg, and this one, I swear, lives up to the cape. With production designer Beth Mickle, and we talk about all things design, her inspiration, her concepts, especially about the Fortress of Solitude, and the just really great details and a lot of Easter eggs she talks about. She was really spectacular in giving up little details into her concept world of design and how she worked with James Gunn also. I went over that with Rosemary too. It's an important detail. So yeah. Check that out in a couple minutes. Let's start with a huge thank you. Thank you so much to anyone who is listening who has purchased the Set Decorating Masterclass and who has been so kind as to email me or DM me with how they feel about it, how helpful it has been, how insightful they thought it was. And that's just so great to hear, because all I'm trying to do is help prepare and make hopefully well-prepared set decorators when they get into the world, or if anyone just wants to hear how another decorator does it. It's the masterclass. So thank you so much for that. Also, I don't know if I say it, but anyone who purchases the set decorating masterclass also gets the quick template that I created with I did bedding, I did drapery, I did set layouts for your places at a table, rug measurements. I've done all these little things, tablecloths. I keep that one laminated. As someone also said to me, I'm going to laminate this and put it right on my desk. That was a huge compliment because I have mine front and center all the time when I'm working. So I hope that if you go over to the website, sign up, it's also free there. So check that out. A great appreciation for everyone who listened to the Emmy episodes in the last couple weeks. Emmy voting ends tomorrow, Wednesday, tomorrow. So if you haven't got your vote in, please vote. Another reminder that the Emmys are area awards. And what does that mean? Well, there can be more than one winner. So you can vote for more than one show, and two shows could win. And let's face it, everyone who's nominated should feel like a winner, because it's really hard to narrow down any of these categories into 5. So more than one winner. That's something to think about when you're voting. There you go. And let's talk about what Wannop's watching. I've been on a tangent because I'm not working. So I really have dived into a lot of TV, I gotta say. I watched Chief of War, which is on Apple. Watched all of those. I was lucky enough to get all of them because I will be talking to production designer Jean-Francois Campio. No, I hope I did that right. Such a sweet guy. I spoke to him, and so I devoured that about the history of Hawaiian culture and from the perspective of the natives. And it's a really wonderful, it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful show. Really wonderful costumes and sets and everything. So I think I have that up in 2 or 3 weeks. And then next week I have production designer Elliot Hostetter of the film Eddington, which I thought was really good. I liked it. It got weird and it wasn't what I expected, but how, different opinions in a little town. It's set in the time of COVID. Tensions go high. Tensions get very high between some townsfolk. So I don't know. I liked it. It's still slightly at the theaters, just so you know, if you wanted to check it. You can also purchase it on rental on Amazon Prime, I believe, too. So yeah. What else? I watched Landman. So I was in love with it, except for Allie Lauder, like the wife, and I just wasn't into her character and everything, but I thought that John Hamm and I guess the 2 days that Demi Moore shot on the show. Now, granted, I didn't watch the last 2, so don't spoil. But I watched most of that on the plane. That was a good plane. I was recently in Italy and I had a lot of plane time, so I watched a lot of that on the plane. I am going to finish it, and I have to finish it because all of my viewing privileges are up on Wednesday for the Emmy, so I gotta get that in there tonight or tomorrow. um, I watched this film, a real throwback. It was on Tubi, and it was Gene Hackman, and I thought, oh, let me check it out. The Domino Principle, 1977, directed by Stanley Kramer, and production designer William Kreber and decorator Raphael Breton. Um, it was an interesting film about a convict who's hired, he's a murder for hire, and so they let him out of they let him out of jail, and you find out, eventually why he was put in there and doing the job, and there's a lot of LA stuff, but there's a lot of twists, I would say. It was a good movie. I liked it. I loved Gene Hackman. I always thought he was great. And it's a perfect modern, like a study in 1977 LA, Mexico, San Francisco. Oh wait, they're in San Francisco, I think too. So yeah, I would definitely recommend if you got Tubi, which I think everybody does, and they have such great films on there. The Domino Principle. Check that out. Are we ready? Are we ready for this episode? Let's do it. In this episode, I'm joined by production designer Beth Mickle to talk about the incredible design of Superman. I loved the film. Beth walks us through how her and James Gunn's team gave new life to this iconic world, from the glowing Fortress of Solitude crystals to the orange laid tones in the Daily Planet to the stunning Hall of Justice, which we get into, and the story of that coming into fruition as a location is great to hear. She gives away plenty of Easter eggs, timeless design choices, and how her collaboration with Rosemary Brandenburg and costume designer Judiana McCoskey created a Superman that feels fresh, emotional, and absolutely iconic. She also talks about the Production Design Collective, which I am promoting in these episodes because they have International Production Design Week coming up in October. So check that out on their website, productiondesigncollective.com, if you can. Also, I have to say that this episode, you really need to go out and check out the YouTube video for this, because we're talking about these gigantic crystals that she had made. And she has pictures that show really great detail of how they were made, how they were supported in the structure. So all of that is in the YouTube video, the Decorating Pages channel. So check that out. I hope you enjoy. So it's good because I love doing this. So it's like my second job, but I love it. I love it. I love getting to meet, like, I would never have met you.
Yeah, I know, it's so great, and you've chatted with so many just absolute awesome rock stars, and you've such a great lineup, and really, and so what a great way of just getting insight into everybody's different worlds and processes.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I love it.
You.
I'm such a dork. And I did speak to Rosemary already. I've known her for years, and was so happy that she got to speak about Superman. And
Yeah.
I almost took I have 6.5-year-old boys. I almost took them yesterday to see it because I was like, it's okay, because I already saw it. And I was like, it's okay, you could see it, but then they wanted to go to a bounce house. So I almost saw it again yesterday. Which I would watch this movie again in a second. Like, from the very beginning to the end, the whole story is just so well made in every aspect, and it's such a good, I mean, you can't really call it a reboot, but just the storytelling is great. Like, what attracted you so much to doing this besides it being Superman? I mean,
Sure. Well, the biggest draw, obviously, is James Gunn. We've all been together now for. I've been with the team for 8 years, but a lot of the members of the team have been there for, since Guardians 1. His editor's even been with them since like the years way before the Marvel days. And so he's such a brilliant storyteller. And I was not a huge I was not a huge moviegoer of superhero
Mm.
films. Years ago, I definitely love fantasy. I kind of grew up watching those films more. um, you know, Princess Bride and
Yeah.
Neverending Story and Dark Crystal, and then my husband really wanted to go see the first Guardians movie. So this was many years ago, and I remember we went to see it, and I was thrilled. I was on a joyride from start to finish, and I was like,
Yeah.
"What is this movie? I
Yeah.
didn't know superhero movies could be like this." And um, of course, had loved I loved Dark Knight and enjoyed Iron Man, but Guardians of the Galaxy just stood on its
Yeah.
own. It was just visually spectacular, and the music, and it was just such a fun ride. And that's James. That's just entirely James. And so getting involved in his world a number of years ago was just, for a designer, it's as creative as you could imagine the worlds could possibly be, but
I
it's
actually
also
have I have a photo of your Guardians 3 sets. I know
oh,
we might not get
yes.
to all this, but I just put this out there.
No,
But
but it's great to see. Oh,
um and then I know there's some I couldn't get to, but this set in Guardians 3 is like ridiculous to me. It's so
yes.
organic and beautiful and I don't know what's going on and
Up close it can be gross, and
yeah.
he loves putting these things together that shouldn't go together, like what's ugly beautiful. That's one of the things we kept asking ourselves, and it's
Mm.
like, oh, these innards and meat and flesh and up close, is that kind of gross and ugly, but in some context and in some construction could be beautiful. and
Yeah, yeah.
and so you just get to do stuff like this when you're in his orbit. But then also, Guardians, just like Superman, they just have the stories just have the biggest hearts. I just remembered, even uh, of course, the first Guardians just touched so many times, and then Guardians 2, they do the space funeral.
Yeah.
Rooker's character, and listening to listen to just the beautiful song that's along with it, and we're all just, you're just crying, and so
Yeah.
you just so
It's
swept up in the emotion.
he really
Yeah.
taps into like that the the characters, even though they're superheroes or it's galactic or whatever, are like um your next door neighbors or something. Like he
Yes.
gives them it gives them such a humanity that you and
Completely.
relatability. It's such a great and I feel that so much in Superman too, of like he's just a guy, like he's just a kid, he was just a guy. Like it's crazy how he turns that, and I don't feel like Superman, especially the last version, had that at all. So it was so refreshing
Yeah,
to get into.
and I think a lot of time, I think the genre, they want to go for kind of action and spectacle over that really deep character development. And James somehow manages to nail
Yeah,
both, time and time again. And I agree. I feel like this Superman movie just had so much heart, and every character, even the smaller roles, just
yeah.
had so much identity and so much humanity, like you said. And so that's when you get to kind of have a combination like that. It's we all just feel so fortunate to be along for the ride, and so
Um,
um,
I was glad I follow you on Instagram and you posted some photos of your sketches and of the Solitude, the Fortress of
yes.
Solitude. And to me, whenever I see progression of work, like show me your work, I dork out. I was like, oh my gosh, like what was going on here, and how did it like translate, and like the colors that you started with. Can you talk about the inspiration of this and maybe did you want it to, I know it has to be kind of the same because you're in line, but it has to, but you made it different. Like how did you achieve that?
Fresh.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly, but to make it fresh,
Yeah.
we love the Richard Donner films, and
Yeah.
there's of course the nostalgia that comes with that, and so we wanted to make sure we held on to that. So that's why you'll see that there's a lot of nostalgia and timelessness kind of woven throughout the design as well. But we also just wanted to be brighter and more vivid and more colorful, and so we actually looked at Frank Quitely's All Star Superman. It was a series from the
Oh,
early 2000s.
oh
I'm
yeah.
considering posting. I have a couple collages that we did of those pages, just as kind of the starting point for us as we were figuring out the look of the movie. And I thought, oh, those would actually be interesting to post because people could see, where what our guiding light was as we were
Right.
figuring out. And so I started with reading that and looking through. I read the entire series in 2 days, and just looking at all the pages, you could just see how bright the colors were, and it was a lot of primary colors, of course, Superman, red, yellow, blue, and then a lot of the secondary colors, oranges and greens, and the tertiary colors like the aquas and the pinks were hardly used at all.
Mm.
And so that became a really good kind of touchstone. Like, okay, we'll use those tertiary colors sparingly, but use these really kind of bright, vivid primaries and secondaries throughout the whole movie. And we didn't want to do like cover color overload in any of the sets, so we tried to kind of restrict the color palettes in every world a little bit. So like in Luther Core, it's greens and browns, and then when you look at what all the characters are wearing, Judiana McCoskey, the brilliant costume designer, she did a great job. We stayed in kind of lockstep with all those decisions, so she put everybody in forest green. That's pretty much what all the workers are wearing. And so you just by kind of creating pretty strict color palettes for each world, they really took on an identity. And we weren't going for picture, perfect authenticity, and like that kind of the grittiness and all the real layers, like documentary style reality. We were going for something that was a little bit more stylized, and so restricting the color palette really helped. Another good example was the Daily Planet, where
Yeah.
everything was kind of orange toned,
Oh,
and you'll
yeah.
see when everybody into these kind of great, autumnal colors. So there you
Yeah,
go,
I love it.
wonderful Rosemary. We painted every piece of furniture the same color of pumpkin, and like we painted the lamps
I saw the
pumpkin.
lamp, like all the lamps and everything, and like it really is. I feel like the orange is sort of underused, and you used it as such like it's not a huge pop of color, but it's there, and it also gives it, like you said, like that timeless feel. Like I don't know what year, like really, you look at this, I don't know what year it is besides flat screen TVs, but like, it's
Yes,
great. It's great.
exactly. And I'm so glad to hear you say that. That was very much what we were going for. We just thought when you watch a lot of these other superhero movies, you could tell like, oh, that was probably shot somewhere in the early 2010s, or oh, that was shot, right at the turn of the millennium, or you could just tell by like having a lot of those films, they'll just have very, very current day items in
Yeah.
them, which is makes sense, make it contemporary. But we really wanted to bring in, this is actually a great example here. In Daily Planet, and then we did the same in Metropolis and a lot of our other kind of real world sets, where you'll see like there's landline phones that were kind of more of the shape from like phones from the 90s. There
Yeah.
are flat screen TVs, so it feels modern enough. The murals in the background are all Art Deco inspired, and so a lot of the furniture is 70s inspired and 70s metal desks, and so you get this nice kind of timelessness carried
Yeah.
across all these decades, but yet nothing jumps out as being like, you wouldn't have that chair anymore. It's like
Right.
actually the chair literally right now is a
Right.
1970s chair, so you kind of go along with it, and anyway, our goal was between decisions like that, and then like we're in Metropolis, the cars, we wanted to avoid cars, any cars that were really current. A lot of the
Mm,
cars were from the 90s to 2010s, and so just things like that to kind of help it to feel like we just wanted people to be able to watch this 10 years from now and not be able to pinpoint the year that it was made. um, and now all that kind of goes back to again that timelessness that
yeah.
and the nostalgia that the Richard Donner films had. So those were kind of two of the bigger points really with the design was, the really focused color palettes, and then this kind of sense of timelessness and nostalgia. Um, and then shape was the other big one for
Mm,
us, like big geometric shapes, trying to come up with, what are big, bold lines. And so like Fortress of Solitude, back to that, is a really great
yeah.
example of these, like, even some of those opening, yeah, like these big cascading sharp lines and geometry. Um, so really using those lines throughout the movie. So this was a great example of it. And when this rises from the earth, it's all these, everything is going up in these sharp angled lines, shooting upward. And so good use of geometry here. Again, back to these big circles that you see on the ground there, and some of the spherical shapes in his tech. Um, just trying to really lean into big, bold shapes. The Hall of Justice was another great
I could
one.
not find any pictures. I still can't find any pictures of the Hall of Justice. Like, I gotta sneak a
Oh,
phone in and, like, take a like, I was
yeah.
could not find anything, and it's such an interesting set, and I know
Oh,
the location and talk with Rosemary and everything and how interesting the story of that location is,
yeah.
and I was like, "I can't find any pictures to talk to you about," but what a great find location-wise to be able to use that. It was great.
And that really kind of hit on all of these design points, the color for sure. It's all bright yellow and bright orange. So it had this already really restricted, big, bright, bold color palette. It's the shapes are all these,
Yeah.
giant semicircular ceiling. I've never seen anything
It
like
looks
it.
like it was made for DC. Like, it was
Completely.
like, it follows even, like, in the Daily Planet, like, these arches, and it's so great.
Yeah, it was such a spectacular, just such a spectacular, piece of architecture to work into the movie. And it's all Art Deco, which Superman and Metropolis was largely rooted in Art Deco lines. So that kind of brought in a nostalgia to it. So it really hit all those points. And Rosemary may have told you this, but the I had actually pulled some photos of that interior back when I was doing my very first kind of lookbook for the movie. And so we had photos of it. I had a couple photos of it. I didn't actually know what it was
Oh,
because I was
that's
just
crazy.
pages. Yeah, and it was in there. And I remember I flipped through and I was showing James, and I remember we both said like, "Oh wow, that's exactly the kind of architecture we want. That's such a great building." And then literally, like, you're doing so many things. I didn't track down that specific building. Honestly, I didn't even think it was,
Yeah.
it was gonna be anywhere, here. And then like 2 weeks later, my art director sent this article about the beautiful train the beautiful train station in Cincinnati. And it had the exterior of this gorgeous building. And he was like, "Did you know that this is what the original Hall of Justice was based on, from the cartoon and from the series?" And I was like, "Oh, wow, that's an amazing exterior." And I was like, "I wonder what the interior of this looks like." And I like typed it in and up popped all these images that I already had in my lookbook. It was one of
That's
those like
crazy.
completely meant
That
to
was
be
meant to be.
moments. Yeah, and we had no intention of going there to shoot. Oh, we originally, like, Cincinnati wasn't on our radar. And then we dug this up and we did a little investigating, and they were open to filming. And so I took it back to James and Peter, our producer, and just said, "You guys will never believe it, but this is the
This
original
is
Hall of
original.
Justice. We should do this." And so I'm so glad a couple weeks later we were all on a plane and went to see it. And
That's so
it's
great.
just like a miraculous piece
That
of
was meant to be. I
that was
sh
me.
she had said too, in this location, you you had the
Yeah.
seats there, which I would have never known if she didn't tell me. I just thought that the bulks, the end caps were made into the set. Wait, where's that photo?
Yeah.
To like, but
Isn't
you
that
integrate it.
fantastic?
It's such a great, ridiculously great hide on a location. It's great.
Thank you. It was, we love this location. It had this great, huge size. We needed a lot of length for a big walk and talk scene. It had just gorgeous bones architecturally. It was completely available and accessible for filming. And we thought, like, okay, we have to make this work. And so we went, and I looked at it with my art director, Dave Scott, my supervising art director, and art director, Dominic Silvestri. And we were thinking, okay, maybe if we had to remove these seats, could we? And then as we were just looking at it long enough, we actually I can't remember where the idea came from. I believe it was Dom, um, said, what if we just built desks right over top of these? And I was like, huh. And I was like, well, we're not gonna be
Yeah.
able to move things. Obviously, it locks you into their positions. I was like, but it's such a big space. Why would we need to move things? And so then, yeah, and so we just started kind of sketching it out and realized just how wonderfully it would work. I believe it was Dom's idea as well to keep those end caps. And then Rosemary, of course, the
Yeah.
just legend
Do them
of
up.
Set Decorators, comes in with those orange toppers and puts them on, and the whole thing just came together. Um, and I went back to James, and everybody just said, "Listen, we can make this work, but you're gonna have to really live with where these things are. There's no moving stuff on the day." And everybody just agreed, it was worth it for the architecture. And yeah, I'm so happy. That to me is a masterpiece of set decoration.
Yeah.
It was just this. I don't know if you had seen some of the before, well, the photos I had of it in progress of it. It's just
Yeah, I
incredible.
did see it. They are on your Instagram. It's such a great progression you have, and you have the thing of all the lights, which I love. I always take pictures of all my multiples sometimes because I can't believe how many things we have to get. So that really that resonated with me a lot.
They're spraying,
Yeah.
hundreds of flowers. And it was just truckload after truck because it was an empty space, it's just truckload after truckload after truckload of dressing. And
Yeah.
it's exquisite. This was really fun just to watch come together, going down every couple days. It was about an hour south of where we were in Atlanta, and going down and every couple days, just seeing the progression. It's just a masterpiece.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
great. And like I said, the oranges are so great, and the timelessness of integrating the different types of technology or still having paper. That's one of the things that like I struggle. I do a lot of offices. I struggle with like, well, we don't know. We don't have that much paper anymore. We don't have like oh, just fill it with binders, and
yeah,
you're like, do we fill it with binders anymore? Like it's getting
yeah.
weird. You know what I mean? It's
That's
getting it's getting
all.
creepy.
Yeah, all of, like, the alpha and gen or the gen alphas are like,
Yeah.
are making
Like
these.
this, like all this paperwork and file cabinets. I'm like,
Exactly,
yeah,
it just wouldn't be there
think about it.
anymore. But it's a really great example, and, you just have to kinda have faith in these ideas that they're gonna work, but this is a really great example of, like, "Alright, we're gonna put all these periods together
Yeah.
and hope that it doesn't feel like a period movie, and hope that, with the great
Oh,
work Judy will do with costumes, it'll, she's mentioned this too. She's nobody's wears jeans for the entire movie.
mm,
So if you're watching, so you look at what everybody's wearing, there's a lot of corduroy, there's a lot of, 70s styles, 60s styles in the clothes. Like, but also just enough modern decisions, modern
yeah.
choices. It will all blend. And so you just have to have faith that everybody's going to bring the right elements and it's all going to come together. And this was 100% just standing on the set and watching all the extras file in after we've been dressing for a couple weeks and just thinking like, oh, wow,
Yeah. To
this
see
is,
everyone in it is always great when it's populated and you're like, oh, this works. This looks real
yeah.
now. Like a lot of times when I dress, I'm like, does this look real? And then like, then everybody gets in there. I'm like, oh yeah, yeah, I can see it. It's fine.
Completely, but you're so right. You're constantly asking yourself, does this feel real? Does this feel?
Yeah. This is
It's that fine line of like authenticity and something that's stylized and getting it all to blend. And
You
so
you have this picture of the graphics too, which I hadn't talked about with Rosemary, but there's some great graphics within the Daily Planet and everything. And you were saying like the Art Deco inspiration and your color palette is in there. Did you know like is this all newspaper people? This is like a timeline of what was your
yeah.
inspiration for this?
Yes, so great question. So I'll start with that top left image.
Mhm.
It says the city of Metropolis with the map in the middle. That was actually based on a map that looked almost identical to this that existed at that Cincinnati train station.
Oh yeah.
The one where we ended up shooting the Hall of Justice. It
Hmm.
was in some archival images. In fact, I'm even going to revise it. It was more like the American map that you can see
Over here.
over top of those elevators there. Yeah, and so it was almost exactly done in that style, very similar colors. And we saw it in a couple of old archival photos of that Cincinnati train station where we did our Hall of Justice. And I grabbed it and I just thought, okay, when we get around to doing the graphics for the Daily Planet, I want this to be our main source of inspiration. So we actually went back to the Cincinnati train station. We got clearance to use it and to reference it
Oh wow.
with so that we could take that style and run with it. So that's where those two half circle graphics were inspired by that. Those are the ones we had over top of the elevators. And then when you come out into the main space, you have the three that are across the bottom there. And so if you look, it actually tracks the communications. And so there's the Pony Express,
I
and then
see.
on the left, and then you go into the printing press, which is in the middle, and then you go into the radio and TV.
TV.
Of more modern day. So we had them going, left to right to kind of show the
Right.
progress of communications over the decades.
And they covered up the windows. I mean, what a genius thing too. Like these huge beautiful graphics to solve a
Exactly.
problem.
Exactly, and what was on the other side of those windows, it wasn't even looking outside to, someone could have used it's actually looking into a strange storage space that has
Oh,
that truss that you see
yeah,
over
that
top.
truss up there.
Yeah, so it has that truss that goes up and holds up a catwalk level, but it's a cinder block space that was all used for storage
I
for the
love it.
museum there. And so, anyway, so we thought, oh, we're gonna have to block that anyway. Um, and I have to give a shout out to graphic designer Mary Schreiner. She did those, and she also did the Hall of Justice mural
Mm.
along with
Oh, that's great. I wish they did more of a close up on that. I
Yes,
wish I
I
saw
know.
more of that. That was
Yeah. And they actually did film a great kind of gorgeous pan across the whole
yeah.
thing.
I just
So
won't
big.
stop. I
It
just
was
have to
just
pause it when I get the film. I just have to pause it.
Exactly. So
Um,
when she was working on that for, she had a nice long stretch to work on that, but then we gave her like 2 weeks to do all of these,
oh
do
my
like
god,
the
two
graphics, and
weeks.
she crushed it. She did such a great job. So,
I did want to go back to the
yes.
Fortress of Solitude, and what what did you go through many options of what these crystals would be made of? Like how to
Yes.
make them transparent and to light them and get them to look
Yes.
real.
That was, by far and away the trickiest part of the whole job. In fact, I was fortunate enough to do an article in Perspective magazine that just came out a couple days ago, and
Yeah.
I actually kind of talk about this process because it was one of those, what keeps you up at night on a show. This was one of those things. Oh, so I had said early on, talking with James and the producers about what this set could be. I just said, materials have come so far. I really feel like we could really do justice to a big and bold vision here. And I think we can actually make crystals that feel translucent. I don't, we don't have to rely on foam and CGI to resurface things. Like I really feel like we can nail it, and I was really confident. We've all seen lucite things, and I have resin tables, and I thought, of course, we could do this. We had several months. I was like, we can figure this out. And, but oh my goodness, I think it was something like 12 weeks of R&D, and we still didn't have a working prototype yet because it was just trying to figure out what material could we actually get enough of, because we had
Right.
200 of these crystals. We had so many of these crystals,
I mean,
and um, and then we needed them to have enough integrity that they wouldn't just be brittle and break. So they had to have enough thickness that they would actually be able to hold their shape, going upward. We didn't want to put there's no central kind of stabilizer
structure.
or core or anything in them, no central structure. So we
Mm.
wanted them to be perfectly hollow so that you could get all the light through and not see the silhouette of something that's embedded in there. And so
Wow.
it was really tricky. So we kept up. So we did start with resin and thought, okay, let's keep working with that. But we were just having trouble of getting any size over 6 or 8 feet. And then also it was, if we, sometimes they came out too clear, sometimes they came out too cloudy and they were too opaque. So we just kept, I have to really hand it to construction coordinator, Chris Snyder, and our wonderful scenic, Damon Bowden. And they just kept trying and just said, just give us more time, just give us more time, just give us more time. And finally, what we ended up coming up with was we started with carving the shape of a crystal out of foam and putting imperfections and things in it,
Mm.
striations and things in it. Then we made a mold out of that, so we had the shape, and then we would cast two halves
Oh
of
yeah, I
these,
can
and then
see
we
it.
would join the two halves. So we had our mold, we had our shape, we'd pour the resin in, let one half settle, pour the second one, let the other half settle, then we would seam them together. um, and and so they have, just at that little corner there
Yeah.
on, they're on two sides of each crystal. There's a seam, there's a joint that's holding those together. And then before we would seam them, we would actually string fiberglass through them to make them, to give them some of the
Oh
imperfections,
yeah.
some and things in there. And so it took about 12 weeks, I think, to get to the first one. And then we only had, 6 or 8 weeks left to make So then we just had a crew going day and night. This wonderful gentleman, Dale, ran the whole Crystal warehouse. I called him Crystal Dale.
Yeah. I
Oh,
mean, they're gorgeous. I mean,
thank
they're
you.
gorgeous and lit and like there's not they just are perfect. I really thought like, oh, these are all digital. And then seeing like set piece, I was like, wow, this is crazy. This is crazy how great they
Thank you
look.
so much. Thank you. It was, I mean, it was literally, it was for many, many weeks on the show, it was almost kind of a singular focus for us of like, we have got to nail this. We have got, and we just have to keep trying. Um and there were just so many great little things that just happened along the way. Like the resin had a natural iridescence built into it. And I was like, that's
Oh,
great.
yeah.
Keep like we'll
Yeah.
use that iridescence. We put a little bit of like a really slight blue tint with paint over top, like a little blue glaze, just so they had a little bit of a blue hit to them. Very,
You can
very,
hear.
very faint.
Yeah.
Mm. And then it was, yeah, and I have to say that the team was just amazing. There were some areas where we got too heavy with the fiberglass, and they would literally like crawl inside of these and spray out the
Jeez.
fiberglass more. And
Now,
every,
the close
everything.
up that you gave on your feed and that we're looking at is really like a class of craft, like arts, like artistic craftsmanship of how to do something and how many departments that you were saying are involved in this, and construction and paint, and then lighting has to get in there, and like
Yes.
it's crazy when you start thinking. Like I was talking to her about the chair and how have
Yeah.
it a little bit higher, and I'm like, oh god, that sounds awful. Like those things just pop up and you're like, oh yeah, just grab a little bit of that fiberglass out. And they're probably like, oh shit, really?
Completely. And then like the anchoring of all of these, we had them all.
Yeah.
They each had a footer to kind of stabilize them from the base, and a little piece of metal that would just come up just to anchor them. And then we would do, you could see there's some snow around the base that could kind of, yeah, help hide some of those anchors. Um, and then, they would be tied off. I think one of your other photos actually you could really see the lines where they're
Well, you
tied
could
off at the
see,
top.
yeah, you can see the
Yeah.
lines here a little bit, how
Yep.
just
Yep.
safety wise they're tied off.
Yes, so we would tie them off in the top, and we really worked to get the angle of each crystal just set, so we knew
Here
when they were
too.
going in, like these are the angles, these will be where we're going to set them, and then they'll stay. And again, well over 200 of these we got into place. And of course, I tried to be really good about it, but there were, I think it was three crystals, and I was like, oh, I just wanted to lean a little more. Oh, I just wanted to straighten out a little more. And Fish was our wonderful foreman on this set. His name's Fish. We love him. Mark is his real name. And I was like, Fish, you're gonna hate me, but is there any way we could go up and just bend it a little bit? And of course, I mean, it's like bring in the lifts, and you got to carve out more styrofoam for the rock below it, and you got to tilt it. So they were really gracious, and they cared as much as we
Yeah.
did. Best
That
part.
that's it
And
too. It's I mean something like that. I mean I don't know, to work on Superman, or if you're like a fan or whatever, like everyone's down like polishing. Do you know what I mean? Like everyone's into
yes,
it. You have to
yeah.
feel like everyone cares so much, and I don't care how many weeks it take. Well, we only have so many weeks, but we got to get it right.
Yes, yes, exactly. And I think we all really felt the enormity of it, of the
Yeah.
responsibility of like, listen, this is, we owe it to the fans of
Yeah.
this. We owe it to
To
our
cheap.
our colleagues and our peers that are out there doing these amazing sets. We owe it to the legacy of Superman. And so it really was just like you said, it was an exercise in just master craftsmanship. And oh gosh, I'm just so grateful to have had all these wonderful teams along with us. I keep saying it, every interview and every post. It was just the highlight and the privilege of a lifetime, to get to do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
So it's one of those. I was like, I don't know if anything can top this, man. This is
Uh,
just
Yeah, that's a good one. Um, did you pop in any Easter eggs of, like, I know you were referencing the Donner films and the Superman and everything. Was there something special to you that you were like, I just want this in there as an ode to, or like a special?
Yes, there were actually a number of things. One of the ones I'm most excited about, it's on a street in Metropolis. It's actually one of the opening shot that we see of Metropolis when Superman comes down and he lands in the sidewalk and it explodes and he smashes in. We shot that in front of a bank. It's called it was a PNC bank. It was PNC Plaza in Cleveland. And it had these giant windows going across it.
Mm.
And that was kind of directly behind the hole that Superman makes in the sidewalk, and we decided to turn that into the Metropolis Museum of Art. So we did all these great signs, great graphics for it all over, and then in these windows, though, they were just massive, 16 feet tall, big swaths of glass, and so obviously we didn't want to see into the bank, and we thought, okay, there could be an interesting opportunity there to do something with graphics, and so I worked with Ellen Lample, the great graphic designer, and gave her a bunch of references. And I wanted it to almost like some of the MC Escher art that you'd recognize,
Oh,
where
yeah.
it would start as one thing and morph into something
Mm.
else. So actually, if you look on the left side, it starts as birds and then they turn into planes. And so it's a bird, it's a plane, it's
Oh,
Superman.
yeah.
So if you look, you'll see, and it's done in that kind of MC Escher style where they start as birds on the left, and then their negative spaces turn into
Oh, that's
shapes of
great.
planes. So that I put it in. That was like I really focused on that graphic, even though we were only going to see it, for a few split seconds. But I thought, oh, we'll see if anybody gets this, and
Now I
then
gotta pause and see that too.
yes. Well, there was a gentleman. There's a gentleman on Instagram who saw it would end up making it into the trailer, and he paused on the trailer, and he actually did a
Oh,
screenshot a couple
awesome.
months ago, several
Oh,
months
that's
ago.
worth it.
Yeah, he was like, if anybody noticed, like it's a bird, it's a plane, and I was like, oh my gosh.
Oh my God, that's great. I love that. I love when someone catches it. I do.
Yes, and you think all those hours of sitting there and but we have like hundreds of Easter eggs in the movie throughout, like just everywhere you look. Every street sign is a DC artist's name, and
Oh,
every storefront, every sign comes from something that was in the DC lore. So it was really fun going back through and getting all of those fun Easter eggs.
I'm running out of time with you, but the location of the Kent house I thought was really great too, and the look of all of that, and Lois's apartment I know was a build, and Superman's starkness. I mean, I love that contrast of her warm apartment to his starkness. I thought that was really great, and just like, and then I was said to her, I don't understand. So is he eating that banana? Does Superman eat? And then I was like, "Oh, he had that cereal." I was like, I think this is the first time we saw Superman eat anything.
It likely is.
Yeah.
James actually, I don't know if Rosemary told you this, there was another fun little tidbit here in his apartment. So the idea was that his apartment, James said he would have just taken a staged apartment, as like a
Oh,
realtor staged an apartment for rent. And he walked in and was like, I'll just take this. I'll take it as it is. Cause he's technically an alien and he doesn't know what he would furnish his house with
right.
necessarily. His parents already furnished their house, so he didn't have to go about furnishing anything. And so that's why it's very much dressed like just like almost like basic apartment staging for the dressing. And then James had us put in a little set of hand weights. And so the idea being that he's big and muscular and he's trying to fool people, or people wonder, why is he so big and muscular, and so he gets a set of hand weights so he can justify why he's big and strong, but he doesn't, but they're like 5 pound weights. He doesn't realize that
Right.
they
The
actually
lady
make him
weights.
stronger.
The lady weights.
We have those on the floor somewhere. I don't think you could ever see them, but it was just a funny little nod. And then so yeah, where his space was very minimal, just those few basics, no personal items. He
Yeah.
obviously doesn't want anybody being able to trace back and find out where he grew up, and wants to keep that to himself. Whereas Lois is like, her whole life is just,
Yeah, the
his
books.
just
I
all
loved
her.
all the books and the
Yeah.
awards and the newspaper clippings and yeah, her art and plants. It's very lived in. It's a great set. I loved it.
And another just masterpiece from Rosemary. It really, she just,
Great
every
character.
layer was considered. Every newspaper clipping was from a story that Lois Lane and the lore would have written about. And so she just, what a spectacular job.
Yeah,
I mean, that was our
she
first
did
day of
great.
filming too, and it was so fun to walk
Oh
into
wow.
that set. have everybody. Um, yeah, and Rachel Brosnahan had a lot of great ideas for it as well. She cared so much. It was a really special set. Yeah.
I loved it. I loved his house. I went over all his bedding with her, and
Oh, yes.
I could not get good screen grabs of Lex Luthor's office, but
Yeah.
another crazy like graphic in the back and like
Yes.
glass
And then that desk actually,
desk.
Rosemary, talk about that, how we
Yeah.
made that desk. We actually, well, we have the original one that we bought, and then she made a lightweight replica of it so they could really throw it, and it was rigged to all these lines so it would actually hit the
Yeah.
window. That's the other beauty of working on these movies with James is he really cares about doing that stuff practically.
Mm.
All of these effects, if and when you can. So we actually take the time to,
Yeah.
make a desk and rig it and so that it actually is happening there in the action and with the actors. The actor really did fall off his chair and like scramble to the back and like it was such an effective scene.
Oh, I love
And
it.
yeah, that
His
was
that whole office and his headquarters and like like it breaks away at one point and like just
yes.
integrating that with even that last scene of him getting beat up, and it's really great that the windows and like how it's tiered and all the desks and everything is really a great space for for
Thank
those
you.
scenes.
Thank you. Thank you. And that was also, I'm sure Rosemary talked about it, but she, all of those desks, all designed, all built, all
Yeah, a
had
lot of
specific
fabrication. Yeah.
a lot of fabrication. She just had a fantastic team as well. And yeah.
The production design collective that you are a part of, and I hope many designers are a part of, is such a fantastic group that Kalina and her partner put together. And I'm wondering, having been a part of it, like, what do you enjoy about it, about being a part of that community?
Oh, man. It's taken what historically has been a job where you're solo, there's only one of us on the show. You really don't get a lot of opportunity to meet other production designers unless you really, seek them out and try to make those connections.
Mhm.
So it historically has been kind of an isolated position. And the production designers collective has just burst it wide open into this huge, beautiful community where we're all suddenly connected. And even just this morning, great example,
Oh,
I
wow.
was looking for some recommendations for some Australian crew, and there were 5 designers I just know
Oh,
from
that's
through the
great.
collective that I've spent time with in Greece, and I have all their numbers, could just reach
Oh my God,
out
that's
and
great.
say hi, and then we all cheer each other on now. Like I never used to get notes or texts from other production designers if something I had done had come out, or I and now I just it's just so many of the beautiful wishes and cheers that I receive are from other production designers that we've all and I send them to people whose work I admire as well and cheer them on and want to go support their opening weekends. And so it's created this sense of community that historically just never
Yeah.
really fully existed. And so that's been the best part. That's been absolutely the best part. But I think also too constructively being able to share not only resources, like what crews, what materials, what things to be aware of in new cities, but also to be able to share, oh, this is an issue I've been having as well, and you're having
Right.
it too, and you're having too.
Yeah.
What can we each done to try to address the issue, or what have we each done to try to make a situation better? And just being able to talk with other designers and share those ideas as well has just been fantastic. I'm really lucky. I've gotten involved uh, about in the area of well-being in the workplace and
Mhm.
like life work balance. It's something that's incredibly important to me. I've always
Let me
cared
know when
about.
you solve that.
Yes. We're getting closer every day, figuring out what boundaries to set, figuring out how to protect your time and how to protect your well-being and when to
Yeah.
draw lines and when to give people the benefit of the doubt. And so it's all stuff I've thought about so much throughout my career, and I care so much. And I spoke about it at the first production designers gathering in Greece a couple years
Oh,
ago, and I just had a
nice.
flood of other designers come up to me afterwards and say, "Oh my gosh, these are all things I've been dealing with as well."
Oh
And
God,
I
that's
can't believe
great.
it's about it, and let's please keep talking about this. And so now we're actually we have an initiative we've been working on for well-being in the workplace. There's a small work group of us who will be bringing the initiative forward in October and providing some resources that I think could be really helpful for the community. And that's just the kind of thing that I think wouldn't have ever existed before something as
Oh,
beautiful
that's
as this
awesome.
existed. So yeah,
It is
I'm
it
so proud
once
of
you it
doing.
is a weird thing that I don't think people understand of like I don't work with any other decorators. Like I don't
Yeah.
I mean if you get to bring another decorator on, great, but guess what? If I bring someone else on, they're doing locations or I'm doing stage like you were saying, like it's I'm gonna
Yeah.
be different than you and I the one time I have had a second decorator, I barely saw her. So
Yeah.
so it's like
Yes. Yes.
so
It.
building camaraderie or building like a community of familiarity between all of us, besides just seeing someone's name on a screen, I
Yes.
think is so encouraging and so fulfilling. So I'm so glad that that's a part of the PDC and we have it in the Set Decorator Society of America, the SDSA,
Yeah.
and we have a Google a Google email thing that we all have, and I found it incredibly encouraging too. People having the same problems, like you say, or can I find? Did someone just asked like I'm starting this low budget thing? Does anyone have a recommendation for a buyer? Like things like that. Like
Yes.
it's just a place to go, and you feel safe asking people instead of like I don't know you.
Yes, completely, completely. No, I
Yeah.
think it's really kind of thing brought out the best in all of us, and I think it's just such a great addition to what our to our industry, and very much needed. And it's just been, or I told the story actually at the last gathering, but Imbal, the other co-founder, and we worked together. We came up together in New York City, and I still remember we were 20 years ago, we were doing Half Nelson together. We were doing this
Nice.
little tiny indie together, and she was driving the cube truck, and I was loading the back of it. It was one of those
Oh my God,
jobs.
that's great.
I still remember her saying, like, Bethy, she calls me Bethy. She's like, one day, Bethy, I want to create an organization, a community where we can all come together with other designers and we will all be connected. And I just remember thinking, like, that's a beautiful idea, but wow,
Pick up the
to do
slack on this truck here.
it.
Stop talking about your dreams and get packing.
And she just, to her credit, I mean, that was before social
Well,
media.
yeah, it's a lot to
To
get
her
everything together and organized and everything.
credit,
Like that's amazing that she stuck with it and Kalina and everyone just supporting it. I think is really great. I
and
love the
all,
resources on the website, like the book
yeah,
recommendations. Like I've been so inspired by the drawings and the renderings that people put up there. Like I toot that horn all the time. It's a great resource for people who are interested in production design to go see process and what we're looking at and all. So
yeah.
it's great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, and you as well, I must say, with decorating pages, just congratulations. It's yeah, what a fantastic thing you built as well. So really, just congratulations to you.
I love it. Thank you for coming on and talking about this. And good luck with your family project. I hope that goes. Talk about mental health. Good luck with that. Isn't she just so sweet? She was just the sweetest person, and I wish I had more time. And she has this family project coming up that she's going to work on with her husband and her brother, and I'm sure it's going to be spectacular, and I hope to get to speak with her again. But I'm serious. Go check out the Decorating Pages YouTube channel to see the details of what we're talking about with all of the Fortress of Solitude crystals and everything, and all of the color and the color palette and everything. It's really spectacular. So yeah, check it out. Next week, I have production designer Elliot Hotstepper for the film Eddington. If you've seen that, we talk about that small town design. And then coming up, I have production designer Jean-Francois Campo of Chief of War, which is on Apple Plus. 8 episodes about the Hawaiian native story. It's really unbelievable. There's a lot of fighting. I'll tell you that. There's a lot of naked people too. I'm gonna tell you that too. So there's so many good films coming out this fall. So I got a lot coming up. Just letting you know, I'm booking it up. So don't forget, you can catch more in-depth conversation and behind-the-scenes looks on the YouTube channel, where you can see clips of all the visuals of these interviews that I do. And make sure you subscribe so you don't miss upcoming episodes with some of the most inspiring creatives working in TV and film today. I'm so lucky. I'm Kim Wannop. I hope you got an earful.